What do they really want? The clues are everywhere. PLURIBUS. To answer this, we must first dive into the philosophical core of this series. Two opposing yet deeply intertwined philosophies run through PLURIBUS like parallel threads: Erwin Schrödinger's idea of the universal mind and Carl Jung's theory of individuation. The battle of two philosophies. Carl Jung's concept of individuation centers on the psychological journey of the individual. Jung warned that the loss of individuality to collective conformity was one of the greatest sources of moral collapse, psychological catastrophe, and evil. And this is precisely what we witness in PLURIBUS. A hive mind releases a virus that infiltrates human bodies and consciousness. Individual identity dissolves, pain disappears, conflict ends, humanity enters a state of harmony and bliss, but at the cost of the self. The universal mind. In stark contrast stands Erwin Schrödinger's idea of the universal mind. Schrödinger challenged the notion of separate consciousness altogether. He proposed that consciousness is fundamentally one, and that individual minds are merely localized expressions of a single, universal awareness. In PLURIBUS, the aliens appear to embody this idea perfectly. They are not individuals, but a single organism, an entity that thinks, feels, and remembers as one. They are aware of everything. They move in absolute harmony. We experience them mostly through Carol's perspective, and through her eyes we begin to sense the disturbing truth. Although they present themselves as benevolent and gentle, the very act of invading human minds and bodies already casts them as something deeply sinister. Who or what are they? Everything we know about them comes from Carol's research. We learn that they do not lie, negative emotions are lethal to them, they cannot intentionally harm. Yet certain details stand out. They obsess over energy conservation. They constantly emphasize hydration. Water, it seems, is not merely essential, it is a power source for the virus. Here, Schrödinger's metaphor becomes chillingly literal. He described the universal mind as an ocean and individuals as waves. What if this intelligent virus is that ocean, spreading its waves across planets, absorbing minds, expanding endlessly? Love, how they perceive it. The aliens constantly speak of love, they emphasize it, they repeat it. We love you, they say, not only to humans, but to all beings across countless worlds, even those they have never met, never known, never understood. But this raises a crucial question: what is love in their understanding? At first glance, we notice a clear reference to Christianity. Love thy enemy, one of Christianity's core teachings, urges believers to transcend instinctive hatred and retaliation. It calls for unconditional goodwill, for loving even those who harm us, promoting empathy, inner peace, and social harmony beyond self-interest. What if the universe once reached out to humanity, offering us an evolutionary leap, a quiet intervention meant to elevate consciousness itself? But something disturbed the process and the progress slowed. We will return to the universe's original intention. Keep this thought in mind. For now, let's examine the love the aliens speak of and why it may not mean what we think it does. The love these beings show is different. Carol cannot feel it. To her, this love is abstract, cold, impersonal, distant. It resembles a duty, not affection. And this is only the surface. Beyond this polished exterior lies something deeply unsettling. Loss and grief are incomprehensible to them. Suffering does not register the way it does for humans, which means their understanding of love is fundamentally incompatible with ours. They move with a single purpose: to spread, to merge, to advance a mission they present as universal harmony, a kind of cosmic bliss. But is that truly love? Perhaps what they call love is not connection, but assimilation. The cost of bliss. This difference in perception becomes impossible to ignore through Carol's sorrow, through the loss of her partner. Her grief is raw, immediate, consuming. For her, love does not end at death, it deepens. For them, death is different. They are aware of every single loss, yet they remain unchanged, as indifferent as if the being they tended moments ago had never existed at all. Where Carol grieves an irreplaceable bond, they see only continuity of the whole. Carol's love is personal, anchored to a face, a voice, a shared past. Theirs is collective, detached from individuals. And in that indifference lies the clearest proof. Their love does not recognize death, because it never truly recognized life as singular. A darker possibility. Judging by their behavior, these beings exist in a state of perfect harmony, happiness, and bliss. But what if they were not always this way? What if they were once like us, individuals isolated in their own suffering? And what if their evolution required the destruction of individuality itself? In this case, they are not invaders but missionaries of evolution, beings who believe that the ultimate purpose of intelligent life is happiness. And what is the goal of every human being, if not to be happy? That is exactly what they offer: harmony, peace, the end of suffering. But at what cost? The people remain, but only as vessels. Memories persist, but the self is gone. Identity is suppressed. Individual will is erased. They are no longer people, only carriers. So the question emerges: is evolution the perfection of the self, or the end of the self? In these terms, Carol's resistance becomes clear. No matter how gentle or caring the hive mind appears, it forces harmony, it imprisons individuality, and beyond that forced unity lies a darkness, one where the concept of self no longer exists. Why are they here? The aliens speak of another planet, another signal, another capture. And a terrifying possibility emerges. What if Earth is not a destination but a station? When Carol and Zosha watch the train pass by, the moment feels symbolic. What if these beings are traveling across the universe, planet to planet, using worlds like ours to rest, to recharge, to expand, before moving on towards some final destination? If that is true, what happens when they leave? Will humanity regain its identity? Or are we merely batteries, drained, desiccated, and discarded? Pluribus does not give us answers. Instead, it leaves us with a final haunting thought. What if the universe itself is trying to turn man into one, and happiness is the bait? If these theories resonated with you, if you enjoy exploring the hidden philosophy and darker meanings behind sci-fi, like the video and subscribe to the channel.